Greetings, viewers. Thanks for joining me out in the shop, looking at the third gen again. Been doing a lot lately. Sent out 3 videos in one day there a few days back. Those were supposed to be time released. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I don't mind giving you stuff to watch, that's for sure. I got the third gen back here. I did the set the toe thing. That worked out great. The steering wheel was way off. I did bring it back in and do the tie rods. Just loosen up both ends and spin them until the steering wheel straightened up without letting the wheels turn. Same thing as when I adjusted the one side. You just do it on both sides. Anyway, that's not the point today. Today, my gears are supposed to arrive. Yay! I'll tell you, the fiasco I ordered, they said 2-week lead time. I waited 2 weeks. They said 1 more week. I waited 1 more week. They said August. I said, So they said, well, you won't get them anywhere else. Needless to say, I ordered from another place that had them available to ship within 4 days, but that's neither here nor there. So they're supposed to arrive today. I'm going to go ahead and just believe that they're coming because the shipping notification says they are. And I'm going to lift this up, take the wheels off, and start doing my 488 gear swap. Now I'll make it a front end video and a back end video out of it. The back is going to be pretty similar to the one I did where I made an adjustment to the Spartan locker that it has in it. This here is another Toyota V6 third member for the 8-inch. This is out of a 2nd gen 4runner with the automatic and tow package. Those have 488 gears in them from the factory. So super stoked to have a factory 488 rear gear. Yes, if you're wondering, 3rd gen 4runner 8-inch is the last of the 8 inches, I believe, in the US anyway, maybe. I could be wrong about that, but I'm going to say it. But all 8-inch third members interchange. So even from the early pickups and 4runners, as long as they had an 8-inch rear third, you could take that out and change it. So this 2nd gen one will fit in my 3rd gen. All I'm going to do is take it apart and put my locker in. But to show you the process of disassembling, and also if you have a locker to do, you'll get the idea. So nice to have that. My install kit showed up yesterday. My gears, like I said, are supposed to be here today. I'm going to get this up in the air and on some jack stands, and I'll show you how to do, third member swap and locker install in the rear, and pull in this whole front end apart, disassembling that entire unit and putting in a locker and 488s in the front. So that'll be a longer video. Anyway, already rambled on a whole bunch on this. I'm going to get started on it, and this one will probably be the rear first. Okay, as I have said in the past, if you don't know how to jack up your vehicle and secure it on jack stands, get your wheels and tires off, you probably ought to abort your mission now. I still stand behind that statement, but let me give you a couple tips. If you're on a concrete floor, jack up the back first, put the jack stands under the axle tubes, make sure you're not catching on any sway bar links or anything. Put your release handles out. When you're jacking up the front, put your jack stands under the frame as close to the front as you can get them on the flat part. Make sure it's secure when you let it down. If you're on dirt and the car can't move, and the jack can't move, you shouldn't ought to jack up your car because it will slide off its jack point. One has to roll, the car or the jack. So those are my tips for jacking stuff up. I will get these wheels off and get started taking the rear end apart on this thing. Okay, under here you're going to need to drain the juice out first. Bring you a pick to pick all the dirt out around your drain plug. And stump residue and anything else that might be in there. Yeah, that's wood. Well, when you go wheeling, you drag this thing. You drag it enough times, you're liable to spin it loose. The kind that go in there and take a the extension that goes in them, those kind are the best kind to have. Especially, like I say, when you get a lot of wheel and this gets wore down. Son of a bitch, did I get all that out of there? Okay, there it went. Good idea to make sure this one will come loose too before you get started on the bottom one. It isn't necessary because you can fill it through the vent hole, but I just changed this one, so I knew it was going to be loose and ready to come out. And then get your bottom one. And always check your wrench, make sure you're going the correct way. Bring your breaker bar, whatever you need. That was loud. If you take this one off too, your fluid will come out more irregular. It's got a lot of dirt in it now. That's better. So anyway, I'm gonna get this top one out, and I'll get this one, a little bit come out. All right, that is brand new, fresh, about, well, got about 600 miles on it now. Want to get this third member out too. We'll look at how well it all worked being set up without using a dial indicator. I'll put some of the paste on there and check my gear pattern. So I'm gonna let this drain. It's 4 14s on the end of the axle, one here, one under there, one up on top and one on the other side. Same on that side. You got to undo your brake lines. I'll show you how to plug those off, what I do on that anyway. While I got the drive shaft out, it'll be a good time to clearance that gas tank. This is going to be very beneficial all around. Oh yeah, plus I'll have 488 gears. Woo! I know I've been talking about that so much. You'll be glad I'm done with that part. And I just ran on about something else. So this is all draining out. Looks like maybe got a little bit of water in there. That's okay, tearing it all apart. Just put new seals in the ends too, so that's good. I'll be back when I get back. Well, that finishes up draining. Go through your spare brake parts tub and find your little ends you've made in the past. These will thread onto this fitting. They got a little rubber piece inside there, and that will keep my brake fluid from gravity bleeding completely out of my system while it's got the axles pulled. I like to keep my bench close by when I'm doing a project, and then I'll stack up every tool I've used on the job over there. It's nice to keep track of, either keep my bolts up there or shove them under my jack stand, or jack stand. So I'm going to go get my 14, my impact, and a 14 wrench and start taking those things off. But I'm going to do the brake line first. Now I would recommend spraying all this stuff down if it all hadn't just been changed in the very recent past. Because this has been apart. Nate, or the other guy, had it apart. I had it apart. And now it's coming apart again. So this is going to have some of the freshest gear oil. Got new axle seals in place. It's always easy to get them on there because they don't want to fit. Oh, and this one's really going to be tough. It's got the skin, or the part with no threads on the end of it. Okay, I'm going to fumble around with this for a minute, see if I can get it on there. But you got your brake line capped off finally. You can get 3 out of 4 of these with your impact. Need an extension to get on that one. Gonna have to break it loose first. Too much crap in there. I knocked my brake line loose too. Thought I had it. Sometimes for using a big extension, you can't quite get it. That's the only one that takes the extension. You got to wrench this front or this bottom one off. The top 2 you can get with the ratchet or with your impact and no extension. I got to feed this brake line into this thing again. We're right back again. That's what I think. I can only be stupid on camera so much. I realized I was using the wrong fitting, and that's the one that I need. So anyway, use your extension on that one. You can get these two with your gun, not a problem from this side. And then I only got one more I have to get with the wrench. And that's this one over here, but that's no big deal. Putting those bolts in the inside of my jack stand there and get this other one off. Be right back. One nice thing about having your vehicle apart every other month, old bolts come out pretty easy. Once you get those 4 bolts loose, just grab this and pull it out. Keep it on the side of the vehicle that it goes on so you don't get it mixed up, but be careful not to damage your seal. I'm just going to stand it right up on end. Yeah. And go repeat the process for the other side. Then we'll get to, what's your step? Then we'll get to the part of pulling the third member out. I'll be around to that in a minute. Okay, with the natural light in the background, it's kind of weird that you can't see it very well. But you can kind of see the next thing to come apart is your drive shaft bolts. I've showed you this before. I'll put one wrench where the angle is leaning towards, the front. Put the other one on the regular way with a little space between them, a little more than that. And grab them both and squeeze. That is the best way to get them apart, I find. And then when I put them on, I do the same thing. So it makes it, I guess, about the same amount of strength it takes to get them apart. But you'd be surprised how much tighter you can crank them down that way. So I'm going to get to those. I get those off, then I'm going to get all these bolts off. Pull this third member out. Then it'll be the same as the V6 one that's over on my bench. So hang on a minute and let me get some more bolts out here. Once you get all the bolts out, you may have to tap it to knock it loose. Try not to knock it onto the camera because it's got that centric that lines up right there. So I'm just going to let that hang for the time being. All these are 12s. Somebody put some stud eliminators in there and they're 13s, which is really weird. But anyway, deal with what you got. I got the socket for it. Grab my impact, start taking those all loose. You can get to all of them with the impact. It's easy. Be right back with getting that out. Getting the little washers off afterwards. If they don't come out like that, sometimes they do. Doesn't matter that much to me. But that is what the stud eliminator thing is for. So I'm going to go around here and get the rest of these off and I'll pull that out. Okay, with the light in the outside being what it is and not giving me much opportunity to brighten up this feature here, I'm going to shut this light off, get under there. All the bolts are out. Sometimes, especially since I kind of just had this one out, I imagine it'll just break loose with some upward pressure. And it did. They're not incredibly heavy, but they're kind of weird. So you're kind of close to the ground, and that's a good thing. I just roll it off on my chest. You're not going to be able to see that because of the way the light is. Sometimes you got to spin this a little to get it to come loose. Or a lot. I hope I ain't moving the cardboard around too much there. Oh, what is the problem? But it comes right out. Son of a gun. There it goes. I was on a tooth wrong. So try not to drop it on your face. Drop it on your chest gently. Oh, slide her to the ground. Roll it off of you. Holy cow. I got it. All right. Now I'm going over to the bench. Going to tear these apart. Okay. Now I got them over here on the bench. You can see when they're lined up side by side that they are both the exact same thing. This is my 488 one that's getting ready to get the locker switched over. This is the old 410 one. Looks nice and clean because I just got through dealing with it. I did do a locker install video a couple of months ago, but since I'm doing this whole thing with kind of the locker and gears, I'm going to show it again. It's a pretty simple process to take it apart, put the locker in, but I'm going to do it anyway on this video. Love the smell of gear oil. So yeah, as soon as I'm done for the day, but that's not the point. I'll be back tomorrow and you won't even realize I was gone. We'll get this tore apart, put the locker in, then reverse the process, get it all put back together. I'm going to clearance that gas tank while it's out. And also, my gears for the front arrived. Woohoo! So, yay. Trust in the mailman. Yeah, moving right on to the front after this. So, Oswald and I will be back tomorrow, and we'll get those that locker switched over, have 488s in the rear real quick. So, hang on. Okay, so now we got it on the bench. This one's never been apart before, so you want to mark your caps, one side and two side. I just use a punch, put one on each there. Woo! Look out! Two on each on the other side. Okay, got him. Well, that was harder than it should have been. Anyway, once you have that on, again, I don't use a dial indicator. I just check my backlash and set it by feel. It's pretty easy to do that way. You may not want to do it that way, but that's the way that I do it. And these adjusters here come off. I keep everything on the side of the diff that it comes off of anyway, but it's good to mark them in case your stuff gets mixed up. And there's a socket for this over here somewhere, I'm sure. There it is. Oswald's helping me. He likes it when I do things on the ground better. He can't help quite as much. And I'm up here, and that's better for me. Maybe not for him, though. Oops, almost stepped on him. Knock your cap off. Knock your cap off. I don't have a spanner wrench. I said that the last time. I don't have one, but it can be done without one by using a punch and a hammer. It's a little sweaty out today. Dang. Okay. So loosen this one up just a hair. Falls right out. Save it on the side it goes on. Same thing with that race. Now this side will just come apart. Save your adjuster and your race. Wow, that bearing is not even on there. That's interesting. I have new bearings. Maybe I should put them on. What's the other side like? I've never seen one come off like that. Of course, that one's not going to. They seem to be fine. That's weird. I don't know, I think I'm just going to put this back on and run it. It should be okay. Bearing don't look like it's spun inside there. I don't know, man. I'm concerned now. I'm going to go dig through my parts and see if I have a set of bearings. And maybe I should change these out. So, hold on. Well, okay, I thought I had a set of bearings, but I don't. So I am just going to force that back on there now, since it was on there already. Probably shouldn't be tapping on that race like that. There it goes. I'm going to pretend like that didn't come off and just move along here. Wow. Okay, that ain't the worst thing that could happen, though, I suppose. It didn't look bad, didn't look scored. You might be cringing, but I'm okay with it. Take these bolts out here. Try to keep the threads on them reasonably clean. And this should fall apart. Gonna take a little tap. There it goes. This is just 2 pieces. Gonna take another little tap. Okay. Now, when you have a Spartan rocker to put in here, you take out your side gears and those thrust washers. Set those aside. Lift this whole mechanism out with these gears on it. Each one of them will have a thrust washer on it as well. Make sure you get all of those. Okay, making sure I'm getting all this on the camera. Again, pop this last side gear out. Make sure the thrust washer comes out with it. Then make sure you're nice and surfacey clean. Surface is clean. Put in the gear. Your side gears can stay. You just have to remove that thrust washer. So actually I should use the side gears that come with this carrier. Good call. So this one, take off the thrust washer. Goes right back in. Then you put this piece on with your springs and your pushies in it. And then your ring goes in the middle here. Everything's kind of gooey and gross right here, but that's okay. It's all needs to be gooey when it goes back together. Take the thrust washer off your other side gear. They're on there too, I'll tell you. Okay, put that back inside. No, you don't yet. No, I'm sorry. I was getting ahead of myself. I'm going to wipe this off here just because it was setting out and I had to cut a bolt and didn't move it. But alright, and set your new or your crossbar back in. You use the same crossbar. I just already had one, but keeping with this carrier, I will take it all apart and use all the pieces that came out of it just for good measure. You got your other piece with your 2 pushies in it and your 2 sections for your pad. Line up your other spring-loaded pins with your pads side to side. Put your ring back in the middle. Take your side gear, put it on there. Everything's going together just like it should. Line up your holes with your sides. Slide that back on. Flip it over. Put all your bolts back in. Okay, got her the first try. Sometimes you got to wiggle that around just a hair one direction or another. Make sure all your threads are nice and clean. So I can't use my power tools without getting my hands dirty because I'm always greasy when I'm using them. I don't know that you need to go back and forth, but anything that has bolts off it and it's round, I like to go across back and forth. You may want to look up torque specs before you bolt that together. I know, I feel like I did that sufficiently. I don't always check the torques. You can ask in the comments and I can look them up for you. I just crank that down nice and tight and that does it. Put your piece back with your side bearings. Get that fuzz off of there. Put your bearing caps back on. Get this back up where it goes because we are ready to go back together. Now, I mentioned before, it's crucially important that you don't get these threads crossed up. So when you got just half of it in there, make sure it spins really well. Same thing on the other side. Make sure it spins nice and smooth. Okay, so once you got them on there and spinning, you can line your caps back up. Super important that they line up in the thread. You can tell because they'll go on really easily. So yeah, just make sure it's on your threads, because if you get it off of a thread on one end, it won't thread proper. See how smooth and nice and easy that went together there? So that's how we know we got that part right. I'm going to bring these up just a little bit. Hands are all greasy. Just a hair up so you can still spin your caps real easy. Damn, boy, that feels good. Right there. Still, we'll have to bring up your tension tight by tightening them with your tapping them around. And I really like that. That feels really good on the first try. But maybe I'll try to bring it just a hair over. Tighten this one, loosen this one to bring it this way. Loosen this one, tighten this one to go that way. Pretty obvious. And that preload feels really good. Man, I like that. I think I'm going to accept that. Still need to bring these up nice and tight, or the backlash felt really good, rather. When they start resisting real good, that's when I stop. Because you don't want to put too much on your bearings. That feels really good to me. Keep checking my backlash. And I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that. Gotta make sure you're tied up against your bearing. This one feels really good, tapping it. It don't move. You don't like put a bunch of force on it. Just let the hammer strike it. If it keeps moving, it ain't set up yet. I'll spin her around. That's the rusty cap on there. I like to spin her around a couple of times here before I tighten it all up. Check that backlash, feels good again. Double check these. I'm satisfied. What do you think? That backlash feels good. Yeah, I'm pleased. Ends on. So you probably want to check your torque specs and set everything to torque. They come up with those torque specs for a reason, because they expect us to use them. Just because I don't think it's necessary doesn't mean you should probably not, but you make your own call on that. There we go, V6 locker in the rear, 488s, getting ready to be installed. I do have some gear paint. I suppose I could paint my gears and run them around a time or two. Hang on, let me get that. Okay, now when I set up the front, since there'll be a new ring and pinion, it'll be a different, more involved process with setting that up. Got some crud in my gears right there from setting in a bag. I had it on the floor. But you can take some of this paint they give you that comes with the gear and the install kits. No install kit or anything is needed for this particular situation because we did not change the pinion depth or bearings. We put all the same pieces right back in. We'll wipe a little bit of the grease out of that. Gonna paint these. Paint both sides of like 3 or 4 gears or teeth. And then I'll show you how to test the drive and coast. Okay, so that's smeared in there real well. You're going to get it up to where it's going to go through the pinion. Okay, and then hold it against the way it's trying to go for drive. And then hold it the other way for coast. And then you go back, hold it down, go through for drive. And then hold it the other way, tension on it, go back for coast. And your gears should be greasy and dirty. You should have a decent pattern. I don't know how well you can see that. Let me try to get it up there. But that is good pattern. It's not too high, it's not too low. It's in the middle of the tooth. Going the other direction. Let me spin that around here. And coast, same thing. I'm in the middle of my tooth. They have names for the ends on the teeth, but I'm in the middle this way. And I'm not too deep into the tooth and not too shallow out of it. So that's how you show that your pattern is good. When I do the Tundra and the front, where I'm changing carriers and things, I'll set it up and do that again. So you'll get opportunities to see that. That's all there is to this now. I'm gonna put my little lockers back on here. Keep my adjustments from turning. Don't forget those. You gotta put every piece back on because there's no extras. So the reassembly process is exactly the reverse of the assembly. You put this up in there first. You may have to turn it one direction or another to get it to release the gear, because if you get it caught on the tops of both gears, you got to turn it and get one in first. Anyway, you figure that out when you're under there. Yeah, bolt this in, all the bolts, and bolt your drive shaft back in. Don't forget to clearance your gas tank first. Then put your axles back in, bolt your axles back up, bolt your brakes back up, bleed your brakes, fill it up with lube. Done. So watch the first or the disassembly part backwards if you're in question, but it is really just a few simple steps that tear this whole thing apart and put it back together. The V6 locker is super easy to put in because you don't have to take off your ring gear. And the carrier comes apart. Those are really nice. I have never had a front one apart, so we'll share the surprise of that one together. I'm going to wrap this up for the rear. So we're set and ready. 488 rear locker, gonna go in. Appreciate you watching this. Like and subscribe to my videos, please. It's free and painless, and it helps me out. Most of all, I just appreciate you tuning in. Gonna tear that front apart next and get this thing going. Gonna be so good. Appreciate y'all. Have a great day.